Hey everybody, welcome back.
Hello, everybody. We're back to the Convo Couch. This is Pasta Jardula and
I'm Fiorella.
Jonny Sue is still spitting on those ones and twos. Fam, confession, I did that on purpose. I saw
You
you
are
go
so
and I stepped on your
obnoxious.
toes. No, it's trick or treat.
No,
Trick. That's Halloween.
It's Christmas. It's not Halloween.
Well,
Jesus.
happy Christmas or happy
Christmas, Harry.
Oliver twist. And Merry Christmas. Ladies and gentlemen, get over to that Rokfin, Rokfin. There's only 6 of you now. We want 60 today. That's right. We're going for the high numbers. Fam, you got to like it on the YouTubes. We already got 12 up and 1 down. So a troll has joined us early. Well, thank you to the troll who's here. Aaron Molina's here. G-Force, Choctaw Warrior, Redneckonomics, and Will. We love you. Guys, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the share. So YouTube's is still suppressing us on our YouTubes. So we need you to help us out and get us a lot of people to join on in. We're going to have a great show for you today. So we got a lot of things to say. I can already see Fee's getting ready to get an early Fee rant in here. Fee, why don't you start us off? Because I know what you want to say. Go right ahead, girl.
Well, I just wanted to say a certain reporter on the ground was just on Jimmy Dore talking about election, the Iowa app, right? And we were there. I was there, actually. App. I was there. Yeah. The Shadow app. Yeah. Yep. And you know, yes, there was obviously election fraud. There was a lot of manipulation going with the app that was tied to Pete Buttigieg. We all know that. But further, when you're talking about election fraud, if you're going to make it about only Bernie was cheated and nobody else is cheated, you're missing like 75% of the story. You're literally spewing half-truths. And it's unfortunate that that sort of half-baked analysis gets to be pushed into the mainstream or into a bigger platform instead of the real analysis that we have been doing here on the ground. Johnny's been on the ass of Alex Padilla. He's been on it when it comes to Jeff Klein and all of these people. Dean Logan. And by the way, Alex Padilla, of course, was nominated to be the replacement.
I wanted to say congratulations. Alex Padilla is now the senator.
He has an impending case of fraud. And I would like to have Johnny come in to talk more about how awful that is. But when we're talking about election fraud, if you're not talking about the machines and how they have SIM cards and how they can be connected to the internet and how they're proprietary software, and you're going to say that somehow the rigging stops, right? In the general, you're completely delusional and you're missing these facts, because we know that that's not how it works, that both parties cheat. The establishment rigs elections depending on who it's convenient for, like a cartel, and we are seeing our own progressive Democratic candidates, right, running against the establishment getting cheated as well, Pasta. So it was really obnoxious to see that narrative get out there instead of the real narrative, which is, yes, elections are fraudulent in this country. We don't have democracy in that sense. And like, it doesn't matter whether you like Trump or not. The fact is this election was extremely manipulated, and seeing somebody like Jordan mock it, right? He's mocked it with us. Like, he's mocked the fact that Trump got cheated. He doesn't believe in it. Yet he's over there getting like air to say all these things about Bernie getting cheated. Oh, it only happens to Bernie Sanders. Only St. Bernard, right? Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, we've talked about this. There's a couple other people out there who has the same rhetoric. Most of the leftists are doing this. I saw Lee Camp do a little report on the whole shadow app and what's going on. But if there was only some people who were there that kind of called out election rigging that night, not for nothing, we called out the fact that Robbie Mook had a part in the app weeks before the election was going to take place. We also talked about the preventative measures that were taking place when they caught this, okay? This is old news right now. We knew about this whole situation. And what did they do? They did typical establishment playbook, right? Cause a problem, get the whole ideology that Pete Buttigieg won or came close to winning, and while everything is tied up, you go on to the next state. So by the time they finally fix it, months later, it's already too late. But like you said, the moral of this story, and this is really something that we need to talk about because we have to talk about the framework moving forward. It is an actual gift that the Trumpers are now experiencing election integrity or kind of going into it. It's our job to sift through the bullshit and say, listen, let's keep our eye on the prize. Let's not talk about the ghost of Hugo Chavez past. Let's stop talking as China pulling the strings. This is the establishment. And let's stop thinking that illegal aliens or undocumented workers or whatever you want to refer to them really swing the elections. It's these other things we're talking about. They're focused on Dominion. So our job now is to get them to focus on the other companies having this proprietary software. There's a lot of work to be done. And now we have their attention. And guys like, I'm so sorry, Mike Tracy, Jordan Charlton, Aaron Matei, all these people right now, these leftists who are ignoring the rigging in the election right now, in the general election, are doing us no service to getting the actual problem fixed. And that's what we need to do, fam. We need to fix the goddamn problem itself. Our elections are fraudulent. They're set up systematically to be fraudulent. And this is an opportunity. And the left right now, the progressive left, blowing it, fam. Blowing it.
Yeah, 100%.
Don't even give me a joke there either, by the way.
What?
Don't give me a joke there.
No. And it just really fucking sucks because, it's like the left gets to mock this with Trump because they don't like him, yet it's going to affect them later on. Like, we're talking about Movement for a People's Party. We're talking about third parties. We're talking about whatever, any fucking party and any candidate you want to run in a party. If you don't address the issue of election fraud and election integrity, you might as well just not run anybody. And you might as well just, give up. Because that's what's going to happen. And if you think that only Democrats just, had a Hail Mary moment where they decided they were going to stop cheating on this election, and you look at the data and the anomalies and everything else that's there, and you still say, well, no, we think, that Joe Biden got 10 million more votes than Barack Obama. I'm sorry, but you can't ignore that, right? Oh, but really show me your evidence. How can I show you the frickin' evidence if I can't look into the proprietary software? And none of these people that are getting an air to actually talk about this are talking about that. The only people that have us on talking about election integrity is RT, who, Ben Swan has done excellent coverage on the issue, but those are the only people doing it. No other really independent media show is really talking about this the way they should be. And it's unfortunate that, Jordan writes an article, then all of a sudden it becomes this thing, as if, we weren't there and as if we're not talking about it in the broader scheme of things. And as if Jonny isn't finding this on the ground situation going on in California as well. And so when people say, oh, only Bernie was cheated, that gets my blood boiling, because as a Bernie supporter for the last fucking 5 years, I'm still able to understand that as much as I liked Bernie, what if this happens to one candidate, it's going to happen to all of them, depending on what's convenient, right? So we're never going to get anywhere if we don't address the issue as a whole.
And we're blowing the momentum that we can possibly take with the allies we can form. Listen, we know the bullshit about that. We can't just take the bullshit like the Venezuelan thing and the China thing and just dismiss the whole thing. We have to say, hey, listen, that's not true, but they're paying attention to it. Listen, there's some data that came out for a little bit of an autopsy, a forensic autopsy in Michigan, and it's mind-blowing. It's got like a 69%, tendency rate to be screwed up, and they found like 8,000 votes flipped. You know what I'm saying? These are actual goddamn forensic audits. Raji Rob's case right now and stuff like that. And every single step of the way, what progressives should be realizing is like, hey, why do we have proprietary software in the spots? You know what I'm saying? And this is where we get with those people on the right, the Trumpers, and we form a coalition to make sure that we fix this for the future.
Oh, but no, we can't talk to them because they're Nazis. So
yeah, they're Nazis. But let's be honest here, fam. We know this. We talked this out. The primary, I'm going to name 3 states and 3 states alone that we know it was like ridiculous. Texas, Michigan, California, right? They took down a video where we were talking about what happened in Texas because we were catching it in real time going, wait a second, this is a dump here that's really, really ridiculous and stuff like that. At that moment in time, how we know, like in California, where we can say, hey, listen, one of the things we have to really correct is the ballot harvesting, right? We have a serious problem with ballot harvesting. They trick you into believing that it's more about inclusivity, right? That more people are now going to be able to participate, right?
Right.
But the fact of the matter is like we've said it before, we can't give up integrity in our elections for a little comfortability. It just doesn't work that way because there's too many ways to cheat it. And they've cheated against your candidate twice, not just once, twice. When people are coming out and saying the Iowa app cheated Bernie, here's what I got to say to you. Duh. I mean, seriously, this is so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And Jimmy is one of those people who said you can't run the corruption calendar when it's convenient for you. You can't just call out hypocrisy against Donald Trump when you've had your establishment just go crazy cheating progressives every single step of the way.
Right.
Let me make this clearer one more time. It wasn't Donald Trump that cheated the progressives and the grassroots left. It was the Democrats. Okay?
Right. Exactly. So let's get started, fam, because we have like a long show. So as we all know by now, Rashida Tlaib and Tulsi Gabbard were the only two Democrats to vote nay on the insulting stimulus bill, which gave us a scrap of $600 per person. Everybody else, including AOC, Ilhan Omar, the squad, besides Rashida, voted yay on this bill. So I'm just going to go over it really quickly. Basically, the entire squad voted for against some of the provisions in the Senate amendment, which was Roll 250, but they voted yes on Roll 251, which included the horrid foreign policy blunders, and it included the pork and, of course, a resulting $600 stimulus check. Specifically, AOC, Omar, Rokfin, Jayapal, Gabbard, Presley, and Tlaib voted against the HR 133 amendment. That was the one containing the divisions B, C, and E, and F in the House roll vote 250. But the bill got a majority, so it passed. But when it came time to go to 251, the only two Democrats that voted against that one, which was the coronavirus relief bill, were, of course, Gabbard and Tlaib, which is it's an abomination, that they were the two Democrats. And, of course, some other Republicans voted no as well. Yeah. And we have the picture here. If you can show it, you can see the yays. I highlighted a few of them that were popular. It's kind of hard to see, but you can, scroll through that. And then,
big ups to Tlaib, though, fam, for voting. I just want to put that out there because I've been really rough on Tlaib, the whole squad in particular, but big ups to her for voting. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to point that out when you said she was one of the only two Democrats. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I will give credit where credit's due. I haven't been a fan of her impeachment stance. I wasn't a fan of a few of her, her tactics, so to speak. But this is about legislation. This is about policy. She voted no, and it took guts to be separate from the squad and actually have her own mind. And she has been the one, remember, she was pushing for those direct payments from the start. She was also okay with the UBI. I think Ilhan Omar even signed a Tulsi's UBI too. So she's been pushing this sort of thing, right? And you guys can see in the nays column who voted nay. You see Gabbard, you see Tlaib, and you see Massey, and you see Gates, I think, is there.
Justin Amash also was a nay too as well. Yeah. So you got Massey, Gates, you got Rand Paul raging in the Senate against it, whatnot. You know what I'm saying? You got Josh Hawley fighting for it and stuff, along with Bernie and the $2,000. I mean, I think lines were drawn on this, fam, once again, but I really would like to know the whole excuse of what people are going to say about the Yas Queen AOC right now and what's going on. I mean, how can we say that? And people are arguing, fam. Matt Stoller put up a tweet the other day saying that AOC voted against the CARES Act. And we said, no, she didn't. As you know, I watched that hearing. I watch these hearings like I'm crazy. I got up at 7 o'clock in the morning to watch it. And I told you she had a little piece on the floor when she put up her little kabuki theater. But when it came time to getting them to go, all right, let's go for a recorded vote, she didn't stand behind Massey. And when people said nay, there might have been two males that said it. She hid behind the whole process so she didn't have to take a stance on yes or no on it. It really was worse. It's the most chicken shit thing she could have done. And now how can we say that she voted against the CARES Act, but she voted for this abomination? No.
Right. And what happened was that she also got into an interview with that soccer player where she was talking about, we passed this. So she voted for a specific portion of it. And then when it came time to the voice vote, because a voice vote, first of all, that shouldn't be allowed. You need a record, right? the only one that was opposing was Massey. So that's basically what happened. So just moving on, the HR 133 bill was originally, the very first one came out in January of 2020. It was the United States versus Mexico Economic Partnership Act. And this bill initially passed the Senate on the 15th of January in the beginning. And then it was amended by the Senate. And that's what became what we know now is the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, which is the one that has the 5,000 pages that nobody read, and that the COVID relief that everybody just voted on. Okay, so people were getting confused because there was two different. There's different parts, right? And so they make it specifically difficult because you have to kind of explain it to people because nobody goes through this. I mean, we're going through this, but the vast majority of people don't go through this. So you guys can read if you want 5,000 pages. I mean, that's like worse than a Dostoevsky novel. And I don't know who has time to read 5,000 pages. Most of them did not read it, and they admitted. But among these inclusions in this bill, some of these things that rose out to me, because we could be here all night discussing it, were the foreign policy allocations, right? The millions and billions of dollars going into other countries instead of ours. So we're talking about democracy groups, right? Having democracy aid for Venezuela, which translates to coups, right? And you can see the graph here in the bill. It says, and that's layman's terms too, when I'm talking about the bill, the resolution of the funds appropriated by this act under the heading Economic Support Fund, not less than 33 million shall be made available for the democracy programs for Venezuela. Fam, what do you know about democracy programs in Venezuela?
Yeah, once again, why do we have to keep meddling in other people's businesses and what's not? This is an area which really does hurt the Trump administration and the Trump people with their ideology against socialism and to even meddle. Who are we to say how a country should run their government? You know what I'm saying? The people electing people. And that's it. This is all about that economic strangle we want to put on Venezuela because the elites, they want that oil there. You know what I'm saying? And this is an area where we could have just stayed on out of it. This is an ideology, I think, that we're going to have discussions with those people on the right, those Trumpers who are so anti-socialism, communism, that think a move like this is okay and they'll justify this movement right over here. And we'll say no against it and stuff. I mean, once again, let's stay out of it. Let's stop sanctioning them. Let's stop sending money there. Let's stop supporting these coups. Now with their new elections, Juan Guaido doesn't even have the house over there, right? Okay, so now he's done. So what are we doing whatsoever? Trump even made a tweet today. He didn't talk about Venezuela in particular, but he did make a tweet. I don't know if it was a joke, if it was real, but somebody had it up. It says, I hope we don't find life on another planet because the Congress will then find a way to send money there instead of here to home in America. You know what I'm saying? It's like enough is enough, and where is the squad on these positions and stuff, right? Aren't they at least supposed to be socialist of sorts? They're called Democrats socialist when not. They're DSA Brooklyn members. Where the hell are they on this one? I mean,
they're eerily silent, Costa. Eerily silent. So there was also 300 million, right, for countering Chinese influence. And I don't even have to go over that, but you know how it is with the Chinese, China. And that's coming both from the neoliberal and the conservative establishment. We're talking about countering Chinese influence fund of the funds appropriated by this act under the headings Development Assistance, Economic Support Fund, et cetera, no less than 300,000 million shall be made available for a counterintelligence influence fund, blah, 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 the Chinese government of the People's Republic of China and the Chinese Communist Party, and entities acting on behalf of globally, etc. So they're trying to make sure we have our funds dedicated in case we want to intervene, which we have been and we will likely continue to do. Then the 500.
Before Israel, let me say something about China. Shouldn't the simple play when it comes to the the Trumpers or the conservatives who do believe that China has a major influence in our government, instead of sending money to go over there and mess around with shit, shouldn't their focus be on stopping our politicians like Joe Biden from meddling with China? In other words, in every single step of the way, whatever your ideology is, shouldn't you still focus on what we're doing at home rather than what's going on over there? Because a lot of that money, whatever it is, it goes into contractors' pockets, and it really doesn't go to what it's supposed to be done. If you're so crazy about China and you got this Alex Jones mentality, like they're pulling the strings, then let's worry about our shit over here. Let's just make sure that we're taking care of our stuff over here. If you don't think they should have an influence on our movies and our entertainment and in our media, then let's fight to put up a bill, if you want, to say they can't do that anymore. I understand that. But sending money over there is just ridiculous. And, and that's the thing. That's where the right will excuse this type of foreign policy money. And I'll talk, when we get to the end of this foreign policy part, fam, I want to tell you how the left will excuse shit, because we'll talk about it. So please continue with I believe you were talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I just want to get through it.
Go ahead.
So 500,000 million to Israel. And then we have, they talk about the defense, Israel Iron Dome procurement agreement, and it just goes over exactly everything that's in there. Basically, we give so much money to Israel. We've known this forever. Every single year, every single NDAA, it's the same shit. We're talking about meddling in our elections. Israel has more influence in this country than Russia will ever have, and then this is what continuously happens. And we're talking about military spending for Israel. What is Israel doing? Well, they're imposing these apartheid-like conditions on the Palestinians, and not just Palestinians, are attempted to spread throughout the region. And so we're completely aiding in this whole thing, right? And Absolutely. Just really quickly, I'm going to mention the $2 billion for Air Force missile procurement. So of course the Air Force, and Johnny has the little thing on that, basically for construction, procurement, and modification of missiles, rockets, and related equipment,
going to contractors.
Exactly, and including spare parts and accessories, ground handling equipment, and training devices. $2 billion for these freaking military industrial complex, and you get $600. That is a level of insanity that we've reached in this country, and people wonder why people are angry. And then,
by
of course,
the way, I was going to just say, when you're talking about military, do you have any more military stuff, or?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Go ahead. Well, let me know when you're done with the military stuff, and I'll just piggyback off it.
Okay, so we have it's just disgusting. We millions for weapons procurement for the Navy, right? So that's just more of the military stuff for the Navy. You guys can go through it. It's on page 272. The expansion of public and private plants, including the land necessary, therefore, and such lands and interests may be acquired, and destruction prosecuted therein prior to the approval of title, etc. And then Space Force is also, of course, included in this. So Space Force also gets tons and tons of money. You're talking about nearing the trillions in all of this stuff, right? It's disgusting.
Yep. So Afghanistan or Pakistan, right? Got a shit ton of money in this bill. And this is a way they duped the Democrats, the left, and whatnot. That money supposedly was for gender studies in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Now, I'm all for any type of thing when you're doing gender studies, whatnot, and everything. But really, can we afford to do that in another country? We have no idea what their culture's like and what they want, what they do with it. Everybody's laughing, they're saying over there, because that money's, the generals are going to take that money and put it into their pockets and spread it out to their cronies. But that's the way they dupe the left into saying that this money's okay. Oh, we have to help out, with women across the globe and whatnot. I get that. I'm not against that. In fact, I thought that Jimmy Carter's book, was one of the most, I didn't even get to read the whole thing. I just read a little bit of it. It was amazing when it talked about the oppression that women feel all around the world. But giving the money directly to these governments with these bureaucrats, they know they're just going to funnel it right into their pockets. It's never going to go to what it's really meant for. And that's the way they're going to dupe the left with all this foreign policy money, because they can say, oh, so you're against it, you're against sticking up for women across the globe. It's like, no, I'm not against that and stuff. But number one, that money's not going to go to that. It's going to be embezzled somewhere else. We see this in every step of the way, including Afghanistan. And number two, we really got to fix our problems at home. We got to clean our own house.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to go to that. And also, we shouldn't be involving ourselves in how other countries do what they do, because if it was ever about actually helping people out, we wouldn't do it, because we always make it about getting something out of it, right? So if we're not getting anything out of it, we're not going to do it. It also serves to educate people with empire education, make them turn on their own government, make them believe that it's their fault instead of what we're doing to cause it. So again, it's a lot of miseducation too that goes along with that.
Yeah.
So the stimulus pork, though, this is something we've been talking about that Nancy Pelosi just refused to approve, with the CARES Act, without having all this pork in it. And what we mean by pork is all this unnecessary baggage. Instead of just sending people direct aid, we're talking about the millions of dollars going to the Kennedy Center, $1 billion to Smithsonian, all these art galleries and humanities. It sounds great, but really we don't know exactly how much these places are getting. We don't know exactly the operations behind it. I just know that all that money is not going to the arts as people would like to think that it is. And then, of course, there's a breakdown of foreign countries that you see: Egypt, Sudan, Ukraine, Israel, Nepal, Burma, Cambodia, Pakistan, Asia, RIA. You can see a lot of these countries, of course, are dependent on the United States. We're not giving money to Venezuela. We're not giving money to Cuba. We're not giving money to Russia or China. We're instead giving ourselves money to actually do whatever, pursue American vested interests, correct? Like, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, citizens, $600.
It's so stupid. Exactly. And it's so stupid. You were talking about the Kennedy Center and Smithsonian and all these art galleries. They're not even open right now. They're closed down, and they're sucking up all this money. And, this just shows you how Donald Trump is less of a hawk than our Congress, our Democratic elected officials and our Republicans and stuff like that. They're giving $1.3 billion or $1.3 trillion to Egypt. Donald Trump has been really rolling back on some of the money that goes to Egypt. Even though Egypt gets a lot of weapons for us, they're one of the top 3 countries, he's been really pissed off because they've been doing business with Russia. So the hawks in the Democratic and Republican establishment tell Egypt, don't worry, we'll get you your money one way or the other. Here it is. It's in the form of oink, oink, oink pork in a COVID stimulus bill going to the military in Egypt. It's disgusting.
And so AOC basically came back defending herself, saying, when all of this came out, Rashida opposed it, etc. Then Trump, of course, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, said, no, I'm going to veto this stimulus. We need 2,000, not 600, etc. And then all the Democrats pretending, oh, okay, we had this going, right? AOC plastered her name onto Rashida Tlaib's effort and all her work and made it out like, oh, I'm on this. And she said, let's do it. I already co-wrote the COVID amendment for 2,000 checks, so it's ready to go, even though she voted for the $600. So why would she co-write something that she already voted against? Okay. And then if you scroll down, Johnny, she talks about the breakdown, right? For people asking about the insane and corrupt tax giveaways in the deal, example, the 3 martini lunch trash, much of that gross stuff is actually omnibus. And she said it's a little confusing because it is confusing. Basically, there are 3 major components: the rule, the omnibus, and the COVID relief. And she goes through that. Basically, she voted for the COVID relief, but the COVID relief had some omnibus into it. And she said the first vote was the rule process vote, which passed. That was the one that I was talking about before, the one that was $250. And then the second vote was the omnibus. It was the deal that centered on trying to COVID relief to funding for the government. Again, COVID relief should not be tied to anything else. It should be 100% direct. Obviously, that's not something she chose to do. That's just the way the speaker and the system is set up. But then she was kind of pacifying, like, oh, this is really bad, but this is how it is. This is really bad, but this is how it is. And at the end, she was talking about the omnibus is actually a collection of legislation that funds each federal agency, Homeland Security, Environment, NASA, etc. There are many agencies, so the second vote was the omnibus with the DHS, the DOD, financial services, and a lot of the pork, right? That people are objecting to. She claims she voted no to that one. The third vote was the COVID relief. That's what she voted yes on, the $600 checks, $300 in UI, SNAP. There were also these omnis tacked on it, but it was less controversial. And she voted present initially, but then she said yes because people are hungry and she wanted to give them something. So again, this is the second time AOC has voted for a large transfer of wealth, right? And for a really shitty bill. The first time, people keep saying that this didn't happen. Massey was the only one that said no in a voice vote. He was the only one. You can watch it. Paso watched 5 hours. Shout out to Todd Jones who watched for 5 hours. He made a little clip on it, and he showed us. He was like, no, this unless she sounds like a dude. This is Massey is the only one that said no. And this is the second time she's done that. She could have done what Rashida did. She could have absolutely kept voting no. She didn't do it. And this is after the fact, right? Because this is after the fact of we're talking about force of vote thing, which carries a lot of weight now because now you're looking like a hypocrite. Oh, you're talking about all of a sudden pushing this. And I'm going to go over that in a minute. But just if you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in real quick because I'm sick and tired of this whole situation where people are like, why are you attacking her so hardly on this? Listen, it's the position she takes and how she takes them. It was only Thomas Massey who drove down there to have a quorum. They weren't going to even have to show up. Pelosi and McCarthy were going to make it so that therefore they can just vote off the record and just pass this stuff, right? And Massey's the one who showed up. If she was really serious about stopping the CARES Act, and listen, we gave Tulsi a lot of shit for this too. Tulsi wasn't there to vote, but when she talked about the bill, she talked about the positive things that were going out there and stuff, rather than railing against it like she did this time. But I mean, if you really want to make an opposition and you really want to make a stance and you want people to understand where you're coming from, you draw the line. Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Tulsi Gabbard, AOC's involved. They have standalone bills, which are like 5 pages, not 5,000 pages. Ilhan Omar has one right now on rent relief. So if you were really serious about it, you would have had that group of people, all those people that Jimmy put up on the screen, standing off to the side in a press conference saying, we are not passing this bill. We are not passing a 5,595-page bill with all this pork where the people only get $600. Okay. And it would have had Republicans or anybody join them and sit there and come together and say, we're drawing the line. She didn't do that in the CARES Act. She just took her little 1 minute on the floor, did a little kabuki theater, and then acted, like you said, the next day on that show with that soccer player, like she did pass it and stuff. I mean, it was a terrible, terrible way to oppose stuff. If you want to oppose it, we know this, fam. You call a press conference. Press conferences are huge. There are now 3 or 4 bills, Rashida, Ilhan, Tulsi, AOC, about UBI 5-page, rent relief. Why aren't they saying, Nancy, put our rent relief bill on the floor? They don't care. It's just a giant virtue signal. Right. They're really not serious about taking on power. They're only serious about hiding behind it.
Exactly. And that's the problem because it's not enough anymore to virtue signal because people need to see actual tangible actions like we've been talking about. This is why like the force to vote works for everything. It doesn't just work for Medicare for all. We can talk about force to vote. Give us $2,000 UBI for the rest of the whatever, however long the pandemic is. Force to vote. Give us unemployment extension for the rest of it. Give us rent cancellation. They could use their power, their popularity, their platform to organize a mass people movement for these things in a way like that's like a general strike and people would jump on board. But none of that is happening. And so that's part of the frustration, I think, with a lot of people who are angry and who were really pushing for this Medicare for all thing. And so what the unfortunate thing that happened, fam, was that it's 2020 and we expect a lot of shit. But I don't know if we expected Trump to out-left the left or out democratize or populize or however you want to call it. But he is going to their left. I mean, in this, if you're talking about a left-right paradigm, he is because he's the one that is saying, you know what? It took Trump to say, no, $600 isn't enough. It's going to be $2,000. And also, I'm going to veto the colossal $740 billion defense bill breaking with the Republican Senate. I mean, this is unprecedented, and people were making memes all day. It was hilarious. But this really says a lot. Now, people, the neoliberals were trying to twist it and saying, well, Trump held the people hostage. No. Who held people hostage were these Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, who literally, they had the opportunity to pass something much higher. Trump had already said, here, I'll sign it, but they didn't want to give him the win. And here we are. And they also were tying all of this pork and all of this NDAA directly to the COVID aid. So they were trying to catch Trump in a catch-22. Like, this isn't about defending Trump, and I have to say that because people are gonna take it as me defending Trump. But the reality is, this is what's going on right here. It is a shame that it took Donald Trump to do what the progressives should have been doing. The fact that this is what they do, the Republican Party is at least effective and taking over and pushing these sort of coups. We saw what happened with Boehner. We've seen this before, time and time again. And the progressives are just too scared to oppose it. Oh no, we gotta wait for the right time. Oh no, we have to wait. No, this is what needed to happen.
Yeah. And not for nothing, fam. Trump said, and this was before the election, he was like, pass a standalone bill. He said the words, pass the standalone bill with direct money and assistance to the people, and I'll sign it. And Nancy was like, oh, it will never happen. Mitch McConnell, and we feed them, and Mitch McConnell. And Mitch McConnell, he said, listen, Mnuchin was already talking to Mitch McConnell. He goes, I'll get it passed. You send me a standalone bill, we'll get it passed. We'll get it through the Republican Senate. Because they're not going to sit there and turn around and say, we're not going to give direct assistance to their workers and their constituents. Nancy Pelosi didn't put that up. She refused to do it because she didn't want to give Trump a victory. She actually played with our own real lives. And by the way, everybody, it looks like Jimmy Dore is winding down. Go over there. Somebody tell people that the Convo Couch is now live over here. Get on over to our Rokfin. We got some super chats and super rays. We'll get to them in a second. But tell people the party's over here. Fam just got her hair done. Pasta's got his eyebrows and his nails done. Let's have a good time. We got a lot more good stuff to talk about. We're only getting warmed up. Get on over here right now. Let's have some fun.
And so this is what Trump said, right? Because Pelosi retweeted this video, and she said, oh, all of a sudden she's, hero Pelosi. Republicans repeatedly refused to say what amount the president wanted for direct checks. At last, the president has agreed to $2,000. Democrats are ready to bring this to the floor this week by unanimous consent. Let's do it. So now they're over here with their PR stunt pretending that they were for this all along. Because they weren't. They were ready to pass the $600. This is why only 2 Democrats voted against it, because they were afraid that they were going to get backlash. So let's not fucking cut the bullshit, Nancy. Let's not pretend that this was your idea all along, that you were waiting. No, let's hear what Mr. Trump, some of what he has to say. It's a 4-minute video. I'll cut you off at like 2.
Throughout the summer, Democrats cruelly blocked COVID relief legislation in an effort to advance their extreme left-wing agenda.
They were ready to pass the $600. This is why only 2 Democrats voted against it. Pasta, your computer's on. They were afraid that they were going to get backlash.
I know, I'm sorry.
Let's not.
And influence the election. Then, a few months ago, Congress started negotiations on a new package to get urgently needed help to the American people. It's taken forever. However, the bill they are now planning to send back to my desk is much different than anticipated. It really is a disgrace. For example, among the more than 5,000 pages in this bill, which nobody in Congress has read because of its length and complexity, it's called the COVID Relief Bill, but it has almost nothing to do with COVID. This bill contains $85.5 million for assistance to Cambodia, $134 million to Burma, $1.3 billion for Egypt and the Egyptian military, which will go out and buy almost exclusively Russian military equipment. $25 million for democracy and gender programs in Pakistan. $505 million to Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama. $40 million for the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., which is not even open for business. $1 billion for the Smithsonian, and an additional $154 million for the National Gallery of Art. Likewise, these facilities are essentially not open. $7 million for reef fish management, $25 million to combat Asian carp, $2.5 million to count the number of amberjack fish in the Gulf of Mexico, a provision to promote the breeding of fish in federal hatcheries, $3 million in poultry production technology, $2 million to research the impact of down trees, $566 million for construction projects at the FBI. The bill also allows stimulus checks for the family members of illegal aliens, allowing them to get up to $1,800 each. This is far more than the Americans are given. Despite all of this wasteful spending and much more, the $900 billion package provides hardworking taxpayers with only $600 each in relief payments. And not enough money is given to small businesses, and in particular restaurants, whose owners have suffered so grievously. They were only given a deduction for others to use in business their restaurant for 2 years. This 2-year period must be withdrawn, which will allow the owners to obtain financing and get their restaurants back in condition. Congress can terminate it at a much later date, but 2 years is not acceptable. It's not enough. Congress found plenty of money for foreign countries, lobbyists, and special interests, while sending the bare minimum to the American people who need it. It wasn't their fault. It was China's fault, not their fault. I am asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000 or $4,000 for a couple. I'm also asking Congress to immediately get rid of the wasteful and unnecessary items from this legislation and to send me a suitable bill, or else the next administration will have to deliver a COVID relief package, and maybe that administration will be me, and we will get it done. Thank you very much.
Well, aside from the China thing, right? He was spot on. I mean, it's insane to me that he was just going over all these numbers. And here's the thing: people who may not like Trump are going to see this, who may not even be political, and be like, "Yeah, this guy's right." Especially when we're talking about small businesses, Democrats have paid zero attention to the small business owners, the small business class that has been screwed by this pandemic through no fault of their own, through also no fault of China, Trump, but. It's something that, you know, we know living in LA, that this is a huge deal, and him actually pointing it out that these businesses are getting nothing and special interests and all these foreign countries are getting everything is actually makes him look like a more populist, more anti-establishment candidate. We know he's not necessarily that, but the fact that he's saying this at this time makes the Democrats look really, really bad.
Yeah. Well, he is more anti-establishment and more populist than Joe Biden. I will say that, than the establishment. The people that they put in. We've gone backwards. It's not that we're big Trump people over here by any means, but I mean, putting in somebody back in like Joe Biden, for crying out loud, it's like Hillary Clinton 2.0. But fam, I don't know. I think maybe we should count the amberjack fish in the Gulf of Mexico right now. Maybe that is important right now. I mean, but again, 1 amberjack, 2 amberjack, 3 amberjack. And of course do the China thing too as well, because once again, it's not the fact that he's mentioning China and whatever role they played. This is once again our people within arm's length doing this to us. This isn't about foreign country. These are about our elected, and I'm putting this air quotes, elected officials, because I don't even believe they're elected, but the officials, the lawmakers here at home that are pulling this on us. And yes, Donald Trump does look like more of a populist than these assholes right now. How dare them run out a 5,565 page bill on a cart wheeled out with hours to go just before you voted. And nobody looks for time or says anything. They actually go and vote it. It reminds me when Nancy Pelosi did say I think it was with the ACA, well, we got to get it passed to see what's in it. Hello?
Yeah, and just real quick, Nancy Pelosi also said something about the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act. She said it's been passed on a bipartisan, bicameral basis. The president's veto of the NDAA is an act of recklessness that harms our troops, endangers our security, and undermines the will of Congress. Okay, so reducing the military budget or wanting to saying that
troops.
This is way too much going into the military and not enough for the people is harming our troops by keeping them home, by keeping them alive, endangering our security by not getting us into more quagmires. I mean, it's very easy. All they're doing is making it look like Trump is a more sane one here, and they're doing that to themselves. And even Lindsey Graham. I cannot stand Lindsey Graham. I think Lindsey Graham is one of the most horrible people. But Steve Poikonen posted this too on Twitter. The CEO of #ScoopGang Slow News Day. Lindsey Graham is a lot of things. Subtle has never been one of them. Just like they tied illegal streaming and the care and feeding of the Capitol building grounds to COVID, John McCain's ashtray here wants to slip in killing Section 230. Let's go big, he says. So he was talking about 230. But we're over here, what Lindsey Graham says is important. Appreciate the fact that Speaker Pelosi supports President Donald Trump's idea to increase the direct payments to $2,000 per person. The American people are hurting and deserve relief. I know there is much bipartisan support for this idea. Let's go further. And then he continues to say, I hope Speaker Pelosi will agree with President Trump that big tech needs to be reined in by winding down Section 230's liability protections. I have reason to believe this combination will lead to President Trump supporting the NDAA and COVID-19 omnibus bills. So there's that on there. And do you have something to say on that, or are you good?
Well, we know that. I mean, you know damn well that they're not going to agree on going into big tech and handling 230 whatnot. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on them right now to do so, but I mean, we know that. And Lindsey Graham's all over the place. He's an establishment hawk. I don't trust this guy at all.
No.
He was boasting about the money that was going to Afghanistan and Pakistan, and I'm saying, it's like, how stupid do you guys look that you're going over there and you're giving money to Jordan, right? All this millions of dollars to Jordan, and you're bragging about it. And what they want to do is build border security. They want to build like a wall, a fence to protect their border over there. And yet you're going to say, let's send the money over there, but you're going to deny the conservatives that want protection on their borders over here and call them racist. This is your Democratic Party for you and your establishment and these rhinos and everybody working together. They make zero sense. They're not even consistent, and they really do think people are dumb. Really, to tell you the truth, right now is a time we have to prove them right or prove them wrong. Enough is enough from these establishment friggin' people. And like I said, the biggest way we could fix this was to fix our elections, but we can't even get that shit straight, fam.
No. And so this is something important I want to point out, right? Because Nancy Pelosi's talking about Republicans refusing and fine, let's do it. And then Rashida's like, I'm ready. But there's something that we need to point out here. And Marie Fonseca points it out really well, because Nancy Pelosi is allowing, or Rashida Tlaib and everybody is allowing Nancy Pelosi, right, to use this unanimous consent, right? You know that this makes the 2,000 dead on arrival. Why aren't you calling for a simple majority vote? Unanimous consent obviously means that you need everybody, right? And they're allowing Nancy Pelosi to do this, to say it has to be unanimous. No, they need to demand a simple majority vote, because otherwise it's not going to pass. So otherwise, if they have a unanimous vote, it is virtue signal. None of the 2,000 that we get is going to or that we might get is going to happen. A majority vote, just with the majority of people in favor, will ensure that. but a unanimous vote pretty much ensures that it's dead on arrival. So that's
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
nobody's really talking about that is extremely important. Like, we're all like, oh, yeah, yeah. No, like, if she gets away with passing it as a unanimous vote, then it's done. And this is why I urge people to call them, to do whatever it is that you think you can be doing. There's a couple events going on in DC in a few days that I'm going to mention at the end of the show. But this is an opportunity to take it to the next level, not just calling people, not just writing them letters. This is going to take a little bit more pressure than that. They need to understand the rage of the public and how people are feeling and what they're going through in order for them to do anything. People are ready. They're talking about all these things. And if they get a 600, I mean, Johnny and I were listening to the radio, and even the Latino people who, normally were, some of them weren't, it was like a Latino show with music, and it had nothing to do with politics. People were angry about the $600. They're like, what am I going to do with $600? Like, this is ridiculous. And it's like, you don't have to be a politico, an intellectual, or some sort of genius to figure out that $600 is an insult. It's awful. And people
Yeah.
are realizing this now. Everything is
stupid, too.
unveiling.
It's stupid too, because really it has Biden's fingerprints all over it. You know what I'm saying? He's a deficit hawk, and he's just like Clinton and Obama, where they'll cut food stamps or unemployment benefits and make sure that all their people get their money up at top, but yet the people down below will get cut. I mean, that's what they do. And there was a lot of talk that McConnell and Biden did some work together on this behind the scenes. And that's why you got a unanimous consent vote coming up right now, because they don't want us to get that extra the money and stuff like that. They got to hand out their money to the corporations and their friends in the military industrial complex and get a piece. But at the same time, make sure that you down below get it cut. I mean, this really does have Biden's fingerprints all over it. Remember when Biden said be easy on McConnell and stuff like that? It stinks to high heaven. That's why this was even, Donald Trump said even in the first bill that had a lot of pork, he was willing to spend $1.8 trillion. This is $900 billion, right? Or it gets cut down or whatever the case may be. It just, like I said, it stinks to high heaven. And you got to understand it, ladies and gentlemen, the Democratic Party is not your friend. They don't give a shit about you. Look what they're doing to you right now. All across the world, people that were forced to stay home or do whatever, in every single other country, didn't lose their health care, and they got a check for staying home. Millions of people have now lost their health care in the middle of a pandemic. The progressives refuse to force these neoliberals to put their vote on the floor for Medicare for all. They refuse to force them to put a rent relief bill on the floor. And when they come up with a stimulus, they give you $600. I mean, what an insult, what a kick in the teeth. How can we not just start marching on these people's houses? It's time, fam. Vegan, but let's eat the freaking rich already.
And this is where the corruption is all around, right? Because Niko pointed out right here in his tweet, I didn't know we were still pretending it's only been Mitch McConnell holding up stimulus checks for Americans. Last I checked, multiple Democrats introduced multiple UBI bills in a Dem-nominated House that Pelosi refused to take for a floor vote. Again, this keeps happening over and over and over again. Stop pretending these parties are somehow different. They're not different, and we still have people pretending that these parties are different. And then, of course, we have Sarcasm Stardust, who said, in the past 36 hours, the squat, no pun intended or pun very intended, has been outlefted by Sarah Palin and Donald Trump. It's kind of hilarious. Of course, referring to Sarah Palin being outspoken in favor of Julian Assange and wanting and advocating for pardoning Julian Assange. And Sarah Palin is somebody that I made fun of so much when she ran. I mean, it was hilarious.
But you saw her, right, fam?
Yeah.
She said, I was wrong. She said, I was wrong. What politician says that? And we need to really start supporting a person like Julian Assange, who's brought us real journalism, and get rid of these fools with all this fake news. I mean, I know she wanted to take a little jab at the fake news people, but she was 100% on. I mean, I was like, I couldn't believe it. I said, my outlook today is beautiful. And once again, like I said, my way of looking at this, and I love Misty and everything she's got to say, but I think I don't say out lefting anymore, because the left in America is not the true left. You've said it before. They're just the Fugazi left. It's the populist idea. He's out populisming everybody.
There's
right
no word
now.
for
and
it.
It's just like, I know that he's being more of a populist than the whole Democratic crew and the squad included. Only Rashida Tlaib and Tulsi Gabbard. And Rashida, once again, she goes right back to blaming the Republicans, playing the same game. Here comes the Kabuki theater.
Right.
So that is that.
Right. And we know it wasn't just the Republicans. I mean, I'm still going to say out left because it is a leftist position to help people out, like as you always say, right? But it is also a populist position because the vast majority of Americans want more than $600. The vast majority of Americans want Medicare for all. The vast majority of Americans want us to stay the hell out of every other country. And yet we have representation that doesn't represent us. It's for a specific reason. One, we don't have democratic elections. Two, we have a corrupt system where we're not getting represented. And again, people still think like these tactics or this rage and this anger is too much. And they're so focused on the rhetoric. Oh, Jimmy Dore's rhetoric. Oh, your rhetoric or whatever. It's like, well, what do you want? I mean, this is the nicest thing we can do right now is try to even work with these people. I'm done working with them, to be frank. Like there's no point. And Peter Dow said, pathetic. Biden and Pelosi were perfectly fine with a $600 insult check. Pelosi called it significant. Biden reportedly worked behind the scenes to reduce the amount. Biden worked behind the scenes to reduce the amount from $600. What are you going to reduce it to? And then Trump outflanked them, right? And then they turn around, of course, and they're chasing him and making him look like the people's champion. I mean, this is bad, right? This is just, it's like they're doing this PR control. And you can see right here, buried in pandemic aid bill, billions to soothe the richest. The bill includes provisions, good, bad, and just plain strange. And Biden was not an idle bystander in the negotiations. On the contrary, the paper of record tells us that the president-elect played a decisive role in making sure the legislation was cut in half. And then you can see Pelosi saying that $600 is a significant amount for working families. Let's hear Pelosi say, let them have $600.
We also have in the legislation direct payments, which were not in the Republican bill, to America's working families. I would like them been bigger, but they are significant, and they will be going out soon. We also have in the legislation
they're significant, Pasta. Can you pay half the rent with $600? Can you pay a third of the rent? A fourth? It's like a fourth of the rent. Not even $600.
It's just beyond disgusting. I don't know. And you know what, fam? It's just really disheartening too when you go back on. I dipped on Facebook today. I know I shouldn't, the home of the neo-progressives, just to take a look at it. And you see those same people putting out the rhetoric that they're blaming the right. Like it was the Republicans' fault. Right. Oh, it's the Republicans' fault. It's the Republicans' fault. Like, no, Nancy Pelosi is the gatekeeper of progressive policies. She controls the House. She can put whatever she wants up for a vote. She chooses not to put up those. Well, her minion, she's a minion of the overlords. They won't let her put these bills up for a vote. And you know, this is Rashida Tlaib, AOC, Ilhan Omar. If you're really serious about policy, about the things you ran on, stop pointing the finger at the Republicans, point it at your own party, force a vote, whether it be Medicare for all, a standalone bill. I mean, and also, too, we have to start getting with this. I think people have to become wise to the fact that we have to stop with the pork. We quit eating animals a long time to become vegans. We have to be politically vegan. We have to stop with the pork. We have to stop. It's not right to have a bill that has 6,000 pages wheeled on into Congress, so many freaking holes that a lobbyist can drive a truck through, and you're going to sit there and you're going to put it up for a vote? I mean, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, and we need to stop. We also have to be very aware of those things, fam. I think people have to start calling for standalone bills so the public can understand. Remember, they're public servants. They're supposed to make things easier for you and for the people to understand. A 5-page standalone bill is a lot easier for the public to grasp than a 5,595-page bill.
Yeah, and let's not pretend, because I saw, I went on Facebook too, unfortunately, and there was a lot of crickets regarding AOC voting for this vote. And on top of that, it was, as soon as Rashida put out her push, oh, AOC, look how she's doing. Oh, see, this is why we don't cancel and blah, blah, blah. It's like, come on, hold her fucking accountable. You guys haven't said a word about the fact that she voted for this. She didn't have to. Oh, but I understand why what else did you expect her to do? It's like, no, because if anybody else had voted, if somebody that you didn't like, let's say it was Tulsi Gabbard, or let's say it was Kamala Harris, or somebody that you really didn't like, voted for this, you would have gone after them. But because you like her, you're still not going after her. All these people that were complaining about Jimmy Dore and the anger and all of this are completely silent when it comes to this. Oh, yes, we're going to push this $2,000 UBI, even though it might be performance theater if we don't get Nancy Pelosi to take out the majority, or not the majority, the full, the complete vote, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
to make it a majority. And it's like, oh, it's okay now because it's convenient. No, this is the same type of thing. You got to push for what you got to push. And that's the hypocrisy that I'm seeing on a lot of them. It's like, oh, we're going to be extremely silent when it comes to AOC. So
No, you know what the great answer was today? We got on Twitter. So ladies and gentlemen, AOC voted for this bill after she said she wouldn't, and said she voted against the CARES Act, and she's on the yays and stuff. Yeah, but Tulsi passed a anti-trans bill. What's wrong with you?
right.
Like, hello, what the hell has that got to do with anything?
What the hell does that have to do with
They
anything?
try
Stop
to
straw
flip
manning.
everything and stuff.
Stop straw
They are,
manning.
but that just shows the power that the woman has brought, the congresswoman, on the way out. And once again, we don't have to agree with every single bill. There's nuance behind these bills, but we're talking about if you want to talk about leftists, somebody out lefting you in the Democratic Party, man, oh man. I mean, it's just disgusting where they're at, and it's stupid. We have to concentrate on all things. We have to start concentrating on the way policy is made, the way elections are run, all these things. We have to look at them systemically across the board, like we do at other issues, and we really need to fix them. This is disgusting right here. $600. I don't understand I know how they keep power, fam. They fix their elections, but totally disgusting right now. It's not a good day. And to see the president say, let's give them $2,000, and to see the president veto the defense bill, and they're going to go after him.
Right.
He's being more anti-war than the Democrats.
Well, but we were, I hope these people swallow their words and understand that Biden was definitely not the lesser of evils, by the way. But Pasta, you wanted to.
Damage.
Did you want to read some super chats?
Damage. Yes, we're mitigating damage, fam. David Ruman, he left TYT in 2015 because he saw what a bunch of frauds they are. That was from Flying Boar. Thank you, Flying Boar. By the way, we got 468 people watching on the YouTubes. We need more. We need you to like, share, subscribe, get people over here, hit the up button, and then go over to our Rokfin, ROKFIN. We were just talking with the CEO the other day. We're very happy with the platform moving forward, trying to progress. We'll get over there in 2 seconds. I saw A. Mares. Where's A. Mares? I saw A. Mares leaving stuff over here. My computer, Great White Shark hanging out. Always love to see the Great White Shark. A. Mares, how you doing? Thank you, A. Mares, for the super chat contribution. It is always appreciated by the Christmas tree. Holiday hearts for my Convo Couch fam. And you are fam. Hashtag forced to vote. Hashtag free Hassan. Hashtag oust corporate owned elections. Love you, Fee, Pasta, and Johnny. You keep us focused. And you guys keep us going. Thank you to all our Patreons. All this love on YouTubes. All the love on Rokfin. We do appreciate every little bit you help you can give us. We're going to be going places. There's a lot of things to cover, right, fam? Natural Progressive, hashtag Roar Media. Those lions out there. Ask the Berets how they feel about the squad fraud not bringing a vote to the floor. Ask the Medicare for All Berets how they feel. Are they going to bow down to the ass queen? No, they're not. They're all about principles. So is Roar Media. That's why they love them. That's why we're a family. It says you are a breath of fresh air. You guys are amazing. We need your voice and more like you. We got you. So at least we're like each other. We love you. And thank you very much for that super chat contribution. Also, Reeve Barker, watching Jimmy Dore coming on over, hanging with us. Thank you so much. Just had this discussion with a blue no matter who friend. He said Pelosi was playing politics with people's lives. It doesn't matter because Trump doesn't want it to pass anyways. Bullshit. Trump would have passed that standalone bill before the election because two things. Number one, it would have helped his election chances despite cheating.
Right.
And number two, it would have helped his election chances despite the cheating and stuff. You know what I'm saying? He would have done that in a heartbeat. We know that Nancy Pelosi did not want to give him a victory. So when people tell you it's all about Trump and Mitch McConnell, tell them to go eat a bag of riches because it's not true. James, thank you for that lovely super chat contribution. It's always appreciated by the Christmas tree. Happy holidays and keep up the good work. You keep it going to us. We love you. We appreciate it. Fam, we got some super rays, and they are growing over there. We got Pasta Whatnot Jardula hanging out. Super rays, thank you so much from Glory Jones. Just want to say, Glory, you look amazing. Your hair is fleek. Thank you, Glory Jones. I'm
no cap,
wearing a
Glory.
nice blue
no
shoe.
cap.
No cap. Larry Johnson, C. Johnson, thank you for the super ray. Robert L. Aren, thank you for the super ray. We appreciate it. Carrie Mark, guillotines are needed here. Revolution, yes. Says Carrie Mark.
$600 for a
you
guillotine.
Better believe it. Carrie Mark says, I don't know what a standalone bill is. They think it's that it's scary. They don't know what a standalone bill is. They think that is scary. No, it's not. They think the American people are stupid and that they can force all this pork in to get what they want, put a name on the bill that's a big, giant virtue signal, you know what I'm saying? And meanwhile, rape the Treasury Department while you suffer on the streets, and there's food lines out there, even in Florida.
Bam.
You got me. Sorry, can you see me?
Nope.
Oh, sorry. Where am I at? You there?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay.
There you are.
Okay, so Jackie Palgal, thank you so much for the super ray. Let's get to the next subject because I'm running low on battery on my phone.
Okay.
Okay. So I really just want to go over this stuff. Let's go over this real quick. This was Give 'em Hell, Josh Hawley is the name of this next segment, because I want us to understand Josh Hawley was one of the guys who kind of joined with Bernie Sanders to try to get the $2,000 on the Senate floor.
1,200.
1,200. I'm sorry, no, wasn't it 2,000?
It was 1,200, I'm pretty sure.
Was it? I think it was 2,000. I could be wrong, but it was 1,200. Well, it was at least 1,200. He tried to get the extra money. They were blocked in the Senate by dude from Wisconsin. But anyways, about a couple weeks ago, Josh Hawley took Zuckerberg to task on the Senate floor when it came to talking about content moderation. Now, fam, I think it's important to talk about content moderation because it's just not a simple word. It was 1,200. Content moderation is something that's really all about censorship and a cloaking device inside the words. When we talk about the pretty words that the Democrats use, content moderation is a way that they kind of say that they have to moderate your content by either giving you a strike, by either not putting you in the algorithm where you can be seen more, by shadow banning you, all these things. And there's a serious problem with it because once content moderation takes place, slide on over here, things can get really, really bad. Now, if you think about this, fam, about how evil it is, if they get together, different platforms, and they moderate content together, it's a big red flag, and it's something that we need to talk about because it's really fascism at its best. It's getting together to make sure the voices that are opposing the establishment, are opposing the corporations, are silent and stay silent. So this is him on the floor. A whistleblower got to him right before the hearing. Take a look. We're going to go 1 minute, 1 second to 1 minute, 32 seconds. Johnny, if you can play the video.
19th century, the heads of the biggest corporations in America, the robber barons, got together and they set rates, they set prices, they determined how they would control information flow, they determined how they get rid of competition. And I'll be darned if we aren't right back there again. Except for this time, you're the robber barons. Your companies are the most powerful companies in the world, and I want to talk about how you're coordinating together to control information. In recent days, my office was contacted by a Facebook whistleblower, a former employee of the company with direct knowledge of the company's content moderation practices, and I want to start by talking about an internal platform called Tasks that Facebook uses to coordinate projects, including censorship. The Tasks platform allows Facebook employees to communicate about projects they're working on together. That includes Facebook's censorship teams, including the so-called community well-being team, the integrity team, and the hate speech engineering team, who all use the Task platform to discuss which individuals or hashtags or websites to ban. Now, Mr. Zuckerberg, you're familiar with the Task platform, aren't you?
Senator, we use the task system for, I think it's, as you say, for people coordinating all kinds of work across the company, although I'm not sure if I'd agree with the characterization specifically around content moderation that you gave.
Well, let's get into that, and let me see if we can refresh your memory and provide folks at home watching with an example. Here over my shot of the task platform in use. You'll notice if the cameras zoom in, several references to election integrity throughout on these lists of tasks. Again, this is shared across Facebook's sites.
You ever see the movie Friday? Debo, you were bobbing and weaving when you should have been weaving and bobbing. That's all Zuckerberg was trying to do. He was trying to get out of this whole thing. He was trying to minimize what was going on. I mean, the tactics that are being used by big tech across the board are really scary, fam.
They're fascist.
And, they're very fascist. And what we've experienced here, I know we have our own business and we have, a YouTube show and we know what YouTube is and we understand who pulls the strings at YouTube with Susan Wojcicki, the CEO, and how close she is. But the fact that this is still going on, and this right over here, this is something so big. I know people just might think it's kind of gloss over it, but content moderation. And now they're sharing information across platforms. That is very, very dangerous, very scary, and we need to bring it to an end. Biden, fam, 16 million from big tech. Trump, 500,000. That's the reason why I was like, gun to the head. If I had to vote for Trump or Biden, it's easy. I'm going to vote for Trump, gun to the head. We obviously voted for Gloria Larivic here. But, I mean, big tech is just all about suppression in the public square, and it's not.
Right, and this goes along with what Whitney Webb was talking about, the money lines that are coming into those, even those machines are directly tied to the Democratic Party. We're also talking about the amount of money Silicon Valley donated to Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. And we're also talking about, in general, the censorship that happened during the election when it came time to hold Joe Biden accountable. You couldn't talk about Burisma. You couldn't talk about Hunter Biden. You couldn't talk about all these things. And now with COVID and election fraud, you can't really talk about that and say Orange Man Bad's name in the same video, in the same sentence, in the same whatever. Fearful of that. I don't know what you're thinking. Like, this is Big Brother. Go back and read Brave New World. Go back and read 1984. Go back and see that this is part of the surveillance state. And unfortunately, like we've mentioned many times, so many progressives completely ignore that issue, especially people like who, may not seem like, I'm a leftist, right? And like Tulsi Gabbard is to my right. But I can value when she talks about repealing the Patriot Act, when she talks about the things that nobody else is talking about with whistleblowers and Assange and pardoning Snowden and having whistleblower protections. Those things also affect us as content creators, as journalists, as media. And when I see people dismiss that or kind of make it like a QAnon thing, it really shows me that the establishment is doing an effective job at vilifying and just maligning that as a sort of non-issue.
Yeah. Let's go to the next part of this video right here and just wrap up the one with Josh Hawley and stuff like that. Go ahead, Johnny, 133 to 424, and we'll get done with this video.
And provide folks at home watching with an example. Here over my shoulder is an example. It's a screenshot of the task platform in use. You'll notice if the cameras zoom in, several references to election integrity throughout on these lists of tasks. Again, this is shared across Facebook's sites, company locations, by working groups. What particularly intrigued me is that the platform reflects censorship input from Google and Twitter as well. So Facebook, as I understand it, Facebook censorship teams communicate with their counterparts at Twitter and Google and then enter those companies' suggestions for censorship onto the task platform so that Facebook can then follow up with them and effectively coordinate their censorship efforts. So, Mr. Zuckerberg, let me just ask you directly, under oath now, does Facebook coordinate its content moderation policies or efforts in any way with Google or Twitter?
Senator, let me be clear about this. We do coordinate on and share signals on security-related topics. So, for example, if there is signal around a terrorist attack or around child exploitation imagery or around a foreign government creating an influence operation, that is an area where the companies do share signals about what they see. But I think it's important to be very clear that that is distinct from the content moderation policies that we or the other companies have, where once we share intelligence or signals between the companies, each company makes its own assessment of the right way to address and deal with that information.
Well, I'm talking about content moderation. I'm talking about individuals, websites, hashtags, phrases to ban. Is it your testimony that you do not communicate with Twitter or Google about content moderation, about individuals, websites, phrases, hashtags to ban? Just yes or no. Do you communicate with Twitter or Google about coordinating your policies in this way?
Senator, we do not coordinate our policies.
Do your Facebook content moderation teams communicate with their counterparts at Twitter or Google?
Senator, I'm not aware of anything specific, but I think it would be probably pretty normal for people to talk to their peers and colleagues in the industry.
It would be normal, but you don't do it?
No, I'm saying that I'm not aware of any particular conversation, but I would expect that some level of communication probably happens. But that is different from coordinating what our policies are or our responses in specific instances.
Well, fortunately, I understand.
Pasta?
So, sorry, we're a couple seconds behind over there, and it's kind of funny, guys. And now CJ left a super chat saying, "Oh, it's funny that wow, YouTube chooses when you're talking about the tech cartel suppression to make the video look horrible and choppy constantly, like being throttled. They do it all the time, ladies and gentlemen. This is something we experience all the time with these people. And yes, they do that. It's not coincidence that all of a sudden we're getting choppy right now. We're talking about what happened on the Senate floor right now as Mark Zuckerberg is looking like a donkey trying to avoid these things, trying to sidestep. I mean, this guy is a liar. He's a CIA asset as far as I'm concerned. And what they are doing right now is fascism at its finest. And they can try to hide it, give it any other name, try to make it look better. But we do have this coming up, fam, because we do have a little faith right now because there is now a lawsuit. Facebook must be broken up, the government says, in a groundbreaking lawsuit. But guess what's going to happen once Mr. Biden comes in there, fam? Wah, wah,
right.
Wah.
He's got all his goons lined up ready to take care of that.
The goons, they're ready, and they're ready to rock and roll. I can't stand Zuckerberg. We're going to talk about him in the next segment. By the way, we had a super chat, the Super Ray contribution over there by Gerard Ainge. Thank you so much. Thank you. I wish I could afford to give you more. This fight is on so many fronts and many agendas that are not in the public's best interest. It's not about the virus. The virus is a tool being used to push their larger PSYOP agenda, aka the Great Reset. The experimental mRNA vaccine is not to protect you from COVID. It's to force the population to comply. And let me tell you something, whatever you believe in, whether it was a bioweapon, whether it did come from China, whether it came from whatever, there's no doubt about it, fam. We can't avoid the fact that once these situations happen, they use them to infringe on our civil liberties. And then they never, ever go back on them, just like they did with 9/11, when they forced the Patriot Act and they forced the FISA courts to allow you to look and start people to start, wandering in on our conversations and our phone calls. And they got caught doing it. Nobody paid a price. And that's what they do. So they use these moments of crisis to infringe on our civil liberties, to make us more enslaved to the security state. And you cannot hide that. Thank you for that super chat contribution. That is so true. And thank you for hanging in during the choppiness, because we know it does take place and they do it to us often. So thank you so much. And 26 people are watching on the Rokfin. We just need 4 more people to make Fiorella happy when it comes to that. So, fam, anything else on this real quick?
No, I guess go ahead to the next subject.
All right, so the next one's about election integrity and the Amistad Project. We talked about this before, about the Amistad Project with this gentleman named Phil Klein. I believe it's called the Thomas Jones Institute or the Thomas something Institute. It's a civil liberties group out of the Midwest. And this one gentleman who's kind of been going around dropping a lot of knowledge pre-election, his name is Phil Klein. He's from the Amistad Project. Now, here's an article from Breitbart, but I just wanted to put it up. It said Mark Zuckerberg's $419 million non-profit contributions improperly influenced the 2020 presidential election. And he did, fam. He influenced this election really, really big. And one of the ways he influenced them, and I want people to understand this, and I want them to grasp what's going on, because we talk about the frameworks about elections, about how it has to be fair. To be constitutional, it has to be fair. We can't give one side an unfair advantage. Well, what Zuckerberg did, especially in Wisconsin, was he funded all these drop boxes. The only problem is he funded them only in the heavily Democratic areas. So in the urban areas and the Democratic areas, there was one drop box every 2 square miles. In the suburban areas out in the wilderness, where it's the Trump voters, like I said, it was more likely that you get a picture of Bigfoot than you find one of these drop boxes because they weren't there. That is unconstitutional. Several people sued and took it all the way to the Supreme Court only to see it been shot down. This here is Philip Klein. He is part of the Amistad group. I saw this guy speak many times. I've seen him prepare these another right-wing outlet, because a lot of people don't cover this. This is the Newsmax, and you can hear what he has to say right here, talking about what happened and the influence of Zuckerberg. I mean, how can he come in and just spend $420 million to influence our elections? That is not constitutional. So here we go. You can play this real quick.
Zuckerberg Funds are funds that he directed through a nonprofit that dictated to cities in the urban core how they would manage the election. Over $500 million. That's a shadow government. The total appropriation by the federal government for states to manage the election is $400 million. That money was joined by other monies. It told these urban core cities how they're going to run the election, how many satellite offices they would have. It paid the election judges, the officials who determine what ballots to count. It purchased the machines. It paid the salaries of those who boarded up the windows and kicked Republicans out of the counting room. So in this past election, we had a billionaire in the counting room, and America was kicked out. And that's wrong. And the report details all of that flow of money and the 501c3s that were involved in it and the cities that accepted the funds. Zuckerberg Fund.
Yeah.
There it is, fam. And I also put up this article real quick because I know we've been spending a lot of time on the first two. The new lawsuit claims the drop boxes were illegal. Fam, this has been a fight that's been going on. We talk about elections and how they have to be fair. And what happened in Wisconsin was disgusting. And the fact that we're allowing this outside money being influenced by people like Mark Zuckerberg is totally disgusting. And what happened in Wisconsin was just ridiculous across the board. And so I just wanted to kind of pour out that element, because when it comes to the future, fam, we have to fight against this. We have to say, listen, you can't have these drop boxes. They break the chain of custody. And people like Dean Logan and Alex Padilla, what do? Oh, look at the participation rate now with these drop boxes. Now, so many more people participate. No, they're lying to you. What they're doing is they're filling these drop boxes with ballots that aren't valid, that people who have moved and the ballots got sent back to wherever they're from. The establishment gets a hold of them. Now with ballot harvesting and all these drop boxes, you can really sway an election. And who does it affect? The down ballot candidates. We have to eliminate these kind of practices. We have to eliminate ballot harvesting. We have to eliminate ballot boxes. People have to walk them, their ballot, into the voting center. Now, if it's a senior citizen who can't get there and it's a relative, we have to make rules on these things, but we have to stop these type of practices. That's why we saw before this election, before one vote was casted, it's like they're going to steal this election, and they're moving every single pawn and rook and knight into place to go and do it. And
Don't use chess terms, Pasta, when you're losing.
I'm going to post up me and Johnny's game that I beat him online. How about that? But, I mean, they did make their moves, fam. They made it before the election. Everything they did was very nefarious. It was a sinister-like game, and they stole this election. And poo to the leftist YouTubers who are not talking about it, and only talking about one side getting cheated. So it really does suck.
And it sucks that a lot of these reports are only coming from the right-wing media, because they're the only ones talking about it. So besides us,
let me tell you something. I look for those on so many different outlets. I can't find it. They're avoiding it like the plague. They're acting like there was nothing to see here. Move along. Nothing abnormal. When you had these mathematical anomalies, they even talked about it. If you get a chance, ladies and gentlemen, go back and watch the Wisconsin hearing. It's only 7 hours and 52 minutes. It's a short watch, but I mean, it was so intriguing. And the way the Wisconsin Democrats treated the whole thing, it's like they're, you know what I'm saying? They're playing this kabuki theater, this OMG, I'm offended. How dare we talk about this? We're talking about we should be talking about the coronavirus that killed all these people. And one of their congressmen told them, the state senator said, he goes, you're sitting there and saying this stuff about coronavirus. It's a shame the way you guys use this strategy to play politics and tip this election unfairly. Like, he called them out in the hearing. And here's the thing, the Democrats, all but one, refused to go to the Wisconsin state capitol to go and talk about this. They stood behind the fact that they had COVID, whatnot, and every single time they got on there, they just said, poo, 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 nothing of substance. It's how dare you do this? Oh my God, I'm so offended. Let's not talk about anything. I mean, they're awful across the board. They're awful across the board. The establishment stinks, and it needs to be taken to heel. So
You sound like Hillary Clinton.
I know, that's what I was trying to sound like. This next section, Johnny's going to like, because it is, and thank you for the super chat contribution again, and think about the social media warnings on any content questioning establishment narratives. Oh my God, and now CJ, it's the same. Corporate plutocracy rules for the neo-nobility. And let me tell you something. It is disgusting. I'm surprised that we don't have a warning down below in our video today. It's the first time ever. They always would be putting up disclaimers. Today, they decided not to do it. I don't know why, but it is crazy. And the way they do that, the way they kind of set out the narrative for the plebs, for the people who don't pay much attention. Oh, like, this is bullshit. This is conspiracy theory. The real people, the AP have called it. And we have all this stuff going on right now. Okay. By the way, another super chat contribution from Cisada or Sakata. Zuckerberg, Dorsey, big tech election interference is the real scandal of this election, along with the mainstream media complicity. Because the mainstream media is all about it. They were in it. They were in there talking their talking points. They were lying the whole time, fam. Every single time that Chris Cuomo said, oh, well, we're waiting for more mail-ins to come in here. Mail-ins favor Democrats. I wanted to throw up because that's a lie. They don't favor Democrats. Historically, they favor older people, handicapped people who tend to be more conservative. End of story. The next part we're going to get into real quick. Did you want to say anything else on that, fam?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so if you want to talk about a guy who knows what's up, Bill Benny told us a long time ago that Russiagate was bullshit. He was the first one to tell us this is an ex-NSA dude who's got an organization of ex-people working in the intelligence community that are out there telling the truth because they know how manipulative the CIA, the FBI are, because they're filled with bureaucrats, a bunch of people who were not elected, who were not chosen, who were just appointed, that really make all the decisions. Now, Bill Benny talks about this next one right over here. He's been saying the whole time, it didn't come from Russia. It wasn't a hack. It was a hard drive that went in there. Somebody went in there, downloaded that stuff, and handed it off. Well, the FBI now, fam, has found files on Seth Rich. So bottom line, listen to what our boy Bill Benny says. And we're going to get him on the show. Bill Benny's been on Action for Assange. Bill Benny's an awesome character. We're going to get him on this show. But look at what he says about Seth Rich. And I got to say this to all you people out there who said we were a bunch of conspiracy theories. Shame on you. It was Seth Rich. End of story. We have the proof. You want to bury it? That's okay. I'm going to be screaming it loud. I'm going to be screaming it proud. It was Seth Rich who gave the information to WikiLeaks. Here's Bill Benny.
Thank you, Dennis. I'd like to address two basic things here. First, I'd like to say I've been reading about the case that Ty Clevenger, who's a lawyer representing Ed Butowski in a lawsuit involving FBI and the discovery of information about the Seth Rich exchange of data with WikiLeaks. And it just came out today that the FBI suddenly found over 20,000 pages of information related to Seth Rich. And they also had his computer, and on that computer, they talked about, or at least been reported today, that on that computer was evidence of him passing information, emails from the DNC to WikiLeaks, asking for money for the rest of them or something of that nature. That's basically what Cy Hirsch's conversation was all about, that was recorded by Ed Butowski, I believe, early on, and that was what was posted on the web, and people heard that, and but Cy wouldn't publicly say anything about it because he didn't want to compromise his sources. But what that does, it says that the FBI has known all along, even before the inauguration of President Trump, that the information that WikiLeaks published had nothing to do with the Russians. It had an insider doing that job. Now, we knew that from forensics of the data that was published by WikiLeaks, simply by looking at the last modified times on all the 35,813 emails that were posted. They were all had the same even ending numbers in terms of last modified time. That was clearly a forensic proof that the data was downloaded to a thumb drive or CD-ROM, some memory stick, and then physically transported before WikiLeaks could post it, which said to us it was an inside job. We couldn't say who it was that did it, but we could say it was an inside job, not a hack coming from Russia, extracting data across them. And that was the same, I think it was in January 2017.
Is the video over yet?
Yep.
Okay, fam, it's right there. They have the email. Seth Rich was asking for the balance of the money for bringing over these documents. The FBI knew the whole time. I guess us hanging with guys like Jason Burnbus now makes us look good and stuff. The fact that he was reporting this shit beforehand and stuff because he was looking deep into this stuff. Okay, it's proof. It was Seth Rich. It wasn't the Russians, but the FBI, along with their cronies and the Democratic establishment with the Obamas and the Clintons, let them take the whole country hostage and peddled a Cold War lie. A lie with the other guys who hold on to the other side of the nukes, of all the nukes we're holding in this country. They didn't care, fam. They let them peddle this shit. And the Democratic Party is still peddling it. And that's why they're so desperate to fix this election and get Joe Biden in there, because they know if they don't, it's their ass. Somebody should go to jail. Who ordered the hit to whack Seth Rich? It was the Democratic Party, the establishment, and the Republican establishment that had a piece to play in this and stuff like that. Totally disgusted. They got busted, and people should be singing this shit from the rooftops. We now know for a fact it was Seth Rich.
But it's never going to be for a fact, Pasta, because you're never going to be able to prove that because you have you're not in power, right? Like the power. It's like the same thing with election fraud. It's like it's real, this is true, but you can't 100% show people the evidence that they want because you can't look into those machines. You don't have the power to do these things. So it's really unfortunate. And it's really even more unfortunate because I've interacted with people still that mock this. Ooh, Seth Rich, that's conspiracy. I think Sam Cedar's show and a bunch of other neo-progressives were talking about, the Seth Rich
David
shit,
Atkins
that's all
hits me up on that
conspiracy.
shit.
And it's that it's fake and all this stuff, but it's like, no, everything surrounding this man's death was completely at the very least suspect. You're not going to tell me that it wasn't. And a lot of people were so scared to even say that because of all the backlash. Well, I think we're at a time where we need to have more people on who know about this stuff. Like, I want to have people on to talk about the Great Reset. This is something that the left hasn't really touched at all. Save, Slow News Day, Action for Assange, and some of these people. But besides that, it's seen as like a conspiracy, as a QAnon thing. But I think if we can have a deep dive into it and discuss and bring people on who can specify exactly what we're talking about here, then that's a good thing. And I think more people are going to be willing to talk about these things that are a little bit more taboo still, right? Like just like how 9/11 was an inside job, was such a taboo topic to talk about a few years ago. Now it's like so many people are talking about it.
Yeah. Well, they're already in place, fam. They have all their defense mechanisms set up. I talked to somebody, we talked about David Atkins when I was talking to him about this whole situation with Russiagate. I mentioned Bill Benny. He went right to smearing Bill Benny. It's like, oh my God, this guy is like a very well-known guy in the NSA, very well-respected across the board. And now you just want to smear the messenger. It's really, really terrible. And that's what all these Democrats have. Most of the Democrats, minions I call them, they're not uninformed. They're just so misinformed. And they think with emotion, whatnot, and everything, and they think their ends justify the means. So no matter what, they'll spew that lie to defend themselves or defend their position and defend the Democratic Party, which doesn't deserve to be defended. Johnny, run this clip from 457 through 825. We'll wrap it up in one shot. This is Bill Benny talking about election fraud and ballot clustering. Something I want people to understand what ballot clustering is, because it really did take place in this last election. Go ahead, Johnny.
So, and the election fraud, this is the other issue I wanted to address. About June of this year, we sent, I think it was 54 registered letters to all the secretaries of states of all the states in the United States and Guam and Puerto Rico and 2 others, saying that there are ways to fix the and validate and rely on the a real outcome of accurate count of any voting process, and we would love to talk to you about it. Well, we heard from 0 of them. None of them responded whatsoever. And so now this vote came along, and you see this video, people stuffing ballots into the voting system after hours after they threw everybody else out. Why? They didn't want them to notice that, but they didn't realize they were being photographed by a camera all the time. So after they threw the witnesses, the press, and the Republicans out to monitor the voting counts, after they threw them out, they pulled these things out from under the table and started throwing them in the machine. Well, so if you went back, and we were advocating looking at bulk information on those ballots, and also using things like census, U.S. phone white pages, yellow pages, Social Security dead lists of dead people, and also those who have Social Security numbers and so on, and using all that data, just crunching it together and saying, here's the reliable, valid data of all eligible U.S. voters in the country. And so we could, by polling place, say, here are all the eligible voters that can come in and vote in your country. And if we had taps on all the voting as it occurred, we could monitor that as it occurred in real time, not after the fact. There's none of this late counting or that crap. Everything would be done right there. And it would be done once for every valid person, no matter where they were living, in what state or whatever. They could have moved, they could be in different places, but they were allowed to vote one time. And that we could have figured out. And so we went and started looking at some of this data that some of us had access to, and we found that in the case of, and I tweeted this out, in the case of Georgia, there were almost 2 million people with the same birth date of 1 January, different years, but the same birth date. Now, if you just said, okay, there should be an equal number of people born on any given day of the year, that's 365 times almost 2 million, which is like 730 million people must live in Georgia. So that tells you there's something wrong there, but that doesn't say these people are guilty or anything, and these ballots are bad. It says you need to look at them to verify. Now, you look at other things like clustering and a time of input, like those people that input all those files after they threw everybody out, and then started throwing these ballots from under the table into the vote counting machines. They should cluster in time. And if that happened, then a cluster in time showed that commonality with all these birth dates of 1 January. Then this is just more additional evidence of fraud.
Okay.
All right, so that's Bill Benny, the ex-NSA worker. I don't know, NSA employee. I don't know what you want to call him nowadays. He was in the NSA, and he started an organization with a bunch of other people who worked in intelligence to call out the deep state or the unelected officials, whatnot. And he talked about ballot clustering here. And this is why we talk about, family, the fact that it's all about really receiving that data, right? I mean, the whole thing that Raji Raw's been fighting for is to get the data. All the data belongs to us, the people, because we fund these elections. Yet they deny us this data. Why? Because they're hiding something. Right. Now, when it comes to clustering, he's talking about the middle of the night when you take all these big ballots and you throw them in the machines in big clusters is what they're calling, because it's called a cluster fuck. It's an old military term. Now, the way we can check a lot of these clusters is to see the date of birth. Now, I do want to point out when people go, oh, there's so many people with a date of birth of 000, whatnot. When you remake a ballot, there were people who back in the days didn't have to give their date of birth to register to vote. So therefore, they would make it with those dates and whatnot. Now, that is okay, and as long as it's spread out. But that's why he wanted to check the clusters, because he could find out right away if they were trying to remake these ballots. You know what I'm saying? A lot of dates would match up where it would have that same old school date. But once again, they don't let us into the data. They don't let us look at what's going on. They purposely keep us out. That's why I put this tweet over here from Mr. Barnes, from Barnes Law. Now, I don't agree with this guy on a lot of things at all, Robert Barnes. But right here, this is what he says. If this election was so clean and pure, why refuse an independently modern signature match audit? That's mainly he's talking about Georgia. He's talking about Wisconsin, or an independently modern vote count, which he's talking about Michigan. He's talking about Georgia, or he even published the digitalized ballots across the board, right? Now the Fulton County Court won't even schedule the Trump election contest for a hearing. That's what they do, fam. They don't let us in. They could figure this stuff out right away. It wouldn't take them too long. We have all the means necessary. We have a way of looking at the ballots to make sure they're legit. We have a way of counting the digital image to make sure they're legit. We have a way of verifying the signatures. If we looked into the software, we can make sure and see if there was any fugaziness going around. There's so many different ways we can check these elections, and we can make sure that they're sound and accurate. They won't let us do it because, once again, the way the elections are set up, they're set up for fraud, and they're set up to self-validate. Get the ballots into the machines, get them quick, get them closed, seal the data, and call it a day, and just tell the mainstream media to say Joe Biden won fair and square. He didn't win fair and square. It's disgusting what happened this election. These mathematical anomalies that happened in the middle of the night, they had all the ways and the means to do this and stuff like that. And if we're leftists, we're true leftists who believe in election integrity, we have to call this shit out across the board. We have to demand audits. We have to demand transparency. And we have to demand that we, the people, get that vote count accurately right.
Only Bernie Sanders was cheated, okay? Nothing else happened.
There it goes again. Oh, wait, we got a huge tip. Diana Schoenbeck, wishing you love, peace filled with holiday. I appreciate everything you do. Diana, we love you. Thank you so much. Fam, we got 32 watchers on the Rokfin. You made Fam's Christmas.
You did.
Fam, you got anything to say on that? You can see how fired up I get up when it comes to election, because I know they're fake. I know they're messed up. And I know what they're doing right now is duping these leftists to think that it only happens in the primaries. It's disgusting. If we can't call it out here, you know what I'm saying? I mean, when will we ever be able to call it out? And this is the time where we unify with those Trump people. Hey, listen, we can tell them all that other shit is bullshit. You said this a while ago. There's a lot of shit to sift through. We don't have to talk about the ghost of Hugo Chavez past. He was a champion of the people. We don't have to talk about him. We don't have to talk about China influence. This is the establishment. This is the establishment. We can tell people.
The left wants zero unification with anybody that is on the right. And I understand in part because there are some ideologies I will not accept. But at the same time, it's based on a lot of assumptions. It's based on a lot of echo chamber desire. It's based on a lot of these this elitism, right? That's coming from, let's mock these people instead of actually talking to them and showing them how wrong they are. Like we were talking about it on Niko's show. It's Niko, gets a lot of crap for going on these right-wing networks. And it's I understand the need to talk to people to change their minds. That's happened many times before. Not everybody's going to be on board with it, but that's up to you. I think we need to move past a partisan society, because I don't feel like a progressive anymore. To me, progressives are fake. They're not really there to progress. They can't hold their own fucking accountable. So I don't want to be called a progressive anymore. If a progressive means I'm like the squad, I'm sorry, I'm not progressive. I'm
We're
far
leftist
out of that.
libertarians, fam. We're leftist libertarians. I see you do the chart too. Bottom left of that green part, leftist libertarian.
No, I'm far more of an anarchist commie type, but
whatever. Make your chest move and let's go.
I'm not authoritarian, because that's not
at all. But here's the thing, fam. It's called being an adult, right? You don't have to agree with the things that those people on the right agree with.
Yeah.
You just have to find common ground on the things we do agree on. There's a lot of people on the right, especially now, they just want fair elections. They want they're football fans. They love football, but they want a fair game. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we want. We want a fair game. And since when did the left abandon all the civil liberties issues? Because they got duped into the virtue signaling of, oh, this person's bad, so we got to shut him out and shut him up, or this person's bad and you shouldn't talk to them. Look, we're never going to agree on everything, but there are a lot of things we agree in a populist mindset across the board, and we have to, it's called being an adult, going over there and talking to people who disagree with us. I'm jazzed up to go in to these events that we're going to. Why don't you start telling the people right now so we can get it done, babe?
Right. So in the news, we have a couple of events coming up. We have the Force the Vote protest on January 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, started at 9 p.m. Eastern each day. People will meet at the corner of the intersection in New Jersey Avenue, Southeast 8th Street. You guys can read that. This is on Capitol area, Capitol Hill. And then there are going to be protests and marches to demand Medicare for all from our electeds. And if you look at the fine print right here, it says what to bring: your mask, warm clothes, walking shoes, your ID, signage, posters, water, snacks, an extra spine. AOC seems to be missing. I like that little blurb right there. AOC seems to be missing a spine. So there was a lot of attacks on people forcing or wanting to force the vote on Medicare for all, or talking about this. Oh, it's not going to work. Oh, you aren't organizers. What are you guys doing? People are organizing. So you can shut the fuck up and stop saying there's no organizing going around this, because there is. Sorry, you're not aware of it, or you didn't think it could happen. It's happening. People are organizing, and they're not the only ones, too. People are organizing in their individual states to get this to happen. I've talked about Wisconsin. We've talked about Washington. This is a push that needs to happen now because it's a freaking pandemic. What other time are you going to get a better time to push for something as basic as Medicare for all, especially when they're giving you $600 and you don't have a job, so you lose your health care, and all these things are happening at once? What better time to do that? Now, apart from that, at the same time, we're having the Don't Extradite Julian Assange actions with our friends from Action for Assange, Slow News Day, everybody, all of Misty. They're all going to be there. They're all going to be, of course, advocating for the non-extradition, against the extradition of Assange. We're going to be hearing the verdict from the judge Vanessa Brayster, and you can see that this is going to take place obviously in D.C. There's going to be protests. This is Sunday and Monday, January 3rd and 4th. They're in front of the British Embassy, and then on the 4th, it's in front of the Department of Justice. These are two issues very close to me. I 100% am all the way for single-payer system. I don't care if it's Medicare for all, as long as it's a single-payer system. And I'm obviously for free speech as somebody in media. This is definitely extremely important to me. The only other issue that's missing is the election integrity issue, which I know that there's going to be a bunch of Trump supporters there rallying. So we could potentially talk about election integrity. And Johnny knows that there's going to be the verdict for Raji Rab's trial on January 6th. So we're going to be reporting on that as well. All of these things happening all at once, fam. It seems like the age of Aquarius is here, and it seems like a lot of unveiling is going on. A lot of things are happening, and I'm so excited. The couch is going to get to be there. We're going to be covering this, and we're going to be on the ground doing all the things we do. So if you can support us to make sure everything goes well there, please do so. We have a PayPal, a Patreon. Thank you so much for the super chats. I know these are tough times, so if you can't, just share, subscribe, tell your friends. But these are key issues that are going on right now, our main issues that I think are so important right now for many people. Let's see if we can add a stimulus, a UBI to that. Let's see what we can do to push these politicians, all those people saying, let's hold their feet to the fire. Let's see if we can actually hold their feet to the fire. Let's see if you're willing to do that. Are the people that were mocking Jimmy Dore, that were scoffing about his house, going to actually step aside and let people do this? Or are they going to continue to mock it and sit by the sidelines? No, get the hell out of the way if you're not going to be involved. So again, these are two events that are very important, and I encourage people to attend them both. And I encourage, solidarity, coordination among the two. So.
Yeah. I mean, January 6th is a great day for election integrity activists. We're going to have the decision from the Raji Rab's case. It's a MAGA, whatever, stop the steal, whatever they want to call it, rally. I don't give a shit. But there's going to be a lot of people are going to be talking about election integrity. I'm going to be educating people down there on election integrity. Really, I am. I'm going to tell them, hey, listen, ladies and gentlemen, listen, trust me, illegal aliens are.
It's not the ghost of Hugo Chavez.
Yes, it's not the ghost of Hugo Chavez. When Sidney Powell said that all the machines possess this thing, and if we remove all proprietary software and we have hand counted ballots, and any type of software has got to be open source. I mean, there's ways to fix this fundamentally. I'm looking forward to educating some of these people on it and building a bridge, because I don't give a shit if they're voting for the next coming of Stalin. If they're for free elections, I'm down for it. We need to have free, fair, transparent elections. And if they're on it just because they got duped, they're on the train now. They're going to be making sure this is going to hurt them so much, fam. It's going to sting them. So if we can find a way to educate them so that we can protect all our populist grassroots candidates on the left and the right who have a chance to take these establishment figures out, let's take advantage of it, ladies and gentlemen. This, to me, has always been the most important issue, because no matter what you want, you don't have anything without election integrity. And of course, I'm going to love the fact of sitting in on AOC going, what's up? What's up, AOC? Where are you spying at? I'm going to have fun with that. And of course, how important Julian Assange. It's ridiculously important. It would be amazing if Trump would pardon Julian Assange right around that time. It would just be amazing. And Donald Trump, I implore you, these people stuck it to you. They don't care about you. Please, please, Donald Trump, listen to Sarah Palin and listen to Pamela Anderson and pardon. Drop the charges on Julian Assange. The man has been behind bars, or he's been held up in an embassy for years. This is disgusting. Please. That it, fam?
Yep.
Johnny, you good? Yep. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining the Convo Couch. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you can help us out, hit us up on our PayPal. That's really going to be helpful right now. We are going to DC. We will be streaming 24/7. We're going to bring you some awesome coverage. What's that? What'd you say, fam?
I said I was bringing a guillotine, or you're going to somebody help me build a guillotine. I don't know. If I'm there, I'm there, you know. All right. Oh, we lost Pasta. I think his phone died. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. And Convo out. We'll see you soon. Happy holidays.